Welcome to the Fancounters Celebrity Podcast. My name's Nick. Thank you so much for being here this weekend. We're glad to bring you another great show with a very storied and legendary actress, Brooke Bundy, who has been on everything, and I will tell you all about her upcoming appearance in just a moment. You can contact us by emailing hello@fancounters.com. Looking for us on social media? We're on Facebook. If you search Fancounters, private group is Sharpie Nation, and you can build up some love for us on Instagram at Fancounters Live. Now, Elizabeth and I had a discussion this week. She has not been on the show pretty much since COVID hit. It's been very hard for us to get together, and she told me that whatever I wanted to do with the show, I could. She's loved being a part of the show and getting together and hanging out with me to create this great content. But unfortunately, things just haven't worked out with us being able to get together. So we are going to explore how we're going to take Fancounters in the future. And I might take a couple weeks off. I might not. I'm not sure. I've got a lot of ideas of things I want to tape, get some new openings together, and just take some time to revamp the show a little bit, come back as strong as we ever have. Anytime we've taken a break, we've come back with a vengeance, and we just enjoy producing this show for you. So we want to thank you for hanging in there. Don't go anywhere. Stay subscribed, and we've got great shows coming up. I guarantee you that. Even though I don't know who the guests are going to be, I promise we're going to get better and better, because, one thing we talked about was the shorter show format, that we should get our interviews cut down into half or even 2/3 of the 1 hour that we always do, because it's hard for people to listen to it in a short car ride or, their drive to work. So we're going to take that into consideration. It also might help us get some bigger stars if we don't have that big of a time commitment in which we are looking for interviews. But we'll see. We've got a lot of ideas. I have a lot of ideas and a lot of things I want to explore. So stay on the journey with me. I promise it's going to be a great ride. Brooke Bundy is here with me this week. She has been on every television show that you've ever watched growing up. If you've seen The Donna Reed Show, Brady Bunch, Gunsmoke, Lassie, Charlie's Angels, General Hospital, tons of TV movies. She starred with legendary actors like George Hamilton, Jimmy Stewart, Robert Conrad, and the great Robert Englund. Robert Englund, you say? Yes, I do. He's Freddy Krueger, and she starred in Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, and Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master. And today we're going to talk a little bit about her being in those shows and working with some legendary actors. We're going to hear about her days of being a Hollywood agent to some young stars. She discovered some of the best young talent that you've seen on a film screen. And she's going to tell you some interesting stories about those kids as well. And lastly, how is the convention circuit going to be changing because of COVID? We have heard last week or a couple weeks ago when we talked about Comic-Con at length about how we're hoping it comes back in July of 2021 and we can go and just immerse ourselves in all this content. But the problem is, if the celebrities don't want to show up, is Comic-Con going to be the same? Brooke Bundy's been at all of these conventions, and she's going to tell us her thoughts about joining these conventions post-COVID. Will she want to do it? Are there concerns? We're going to find out today. Thank you for being here. Let's get the show started. Here is our interview with the great Brooke Bundy.
Coming to you from nowhere near the entertainment capital of the world, this is Fancounters with Nick and Elizabeth on the Podfix Network.
There was this mob of people, and they're screaming my name.
Crazy fans.
Stop following me. Don't come around my house. If you do, the cops are going to be at yours.
If I'm having dinner with my wife, don't sit down at my table. Don't follow me into the bathroom.
Can I take a picture? We're gonna. Oh my God.
I think this guy wants to fight me. Ended up being a fan.
I'm the only one that's ever been on Sam Jackson and lived to tell about it.
Well, guess what? I have a big surprise for you.
That's why we call it Fancounters.
I don't think you're going to last on the air very long.
Brooke Bundy, welcome to Fancounters. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you. This is going to be fun.
I'm looking forward to it. Now, on paper, it looks like you've really had a dream career working on projects that are known to everybody in America. But before that, you were in classes with Christopher Walken, and he encouraged you to audition for a play that he was in. So what was the play, and what do you remember that very first time that you appeared in front of a live audience?
When you say classes, just to clarify, we were in high school together. It wasn't an acting class.
Oh, I thought it was an acting class.
No. We were in high school together, professional children's school in New York. And we used to just hang out, and then we had a third buddy. We called ourselves the Three Musketeers. I went to audition for a play called J.B., which is a modern version of Job from the Bible, and it won all kinds of Tonys, and it was a powerful, powerful play, as you can imagine. And it was at the Amphitheater in New York, which I think is like 52nd and Broadway. But I was like, I think the reason I got the part was I was just so, I don't know, just sort of like a teenager, I was just a goofball. So it's just, and I also looked like everybody else. So that was one of the points of the play, that all the children, Job's children, had a certain look about them.
Okay.
So, and I auditioned for the great Elia Kazan, who asked me if I could sing, and I said, yeah. Now I'm standing on the stage, the Amphitheater stage, and he's sitting in the audience. Like, we've all seen those scenes. And then he asked if I could dance, and I said, yeah, and I did the twist. So he thought I was charming, I think. I think I was just being a brat. But I called him Mr. Gadge because Gadge was his nickname. So he thought that was hilarious. Anyway, he gave me the part right there, then and there. And I thought, wow, show business is a snap. This is easy breezy.
Yeah.
So, and it was a little easier then too, I might add. But the first time on the stage, opening night, because I replaced somebody. So it wasn't everybody else's opening night. It was just mine.
That's even more intimidating, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was just sort of fearless. I was like, yeah, what's the problem? So I think everybody in the cast, including Christopher Plummer and James Daly and just this incredible cast, Nan Martin, of great actors, not just good actors, but great actors. I think they were all terrified that I was going to screw up because they knew that I had absolutely no background for this at all, except I'd done a bunch of commercials and I was a model. So, and I did it really well. I didn't screw up. I was fine. I did what I was supposed to do. And as we were exiting stage left, I just saw the relief in everybody's faces as they looked at me and they said, good job. That was really good. It was palpable. So it was really funny. But I thought of something the other day. I was thinking about this, and I remember an incident, because as you know, in the Bible, Job goes through all of these tragedies.
Yes.
And says, why me, God, kind of thing, because he was a very devout believer. So we exited the stage after our first introduction, and we were all sitting at a dinner table singing happy birthday song. And we exited, and James Daly had a moment of like sadness and angst, and I did something that you should never do. People get fired for stuff like this. I went running back onto the stage and I hugged him. I said, I love you, Poppy. And then I went running back out, and boy, I caught hell for that. I mean, that's really it's like the worst thing you can do. Yeah. But all the other actors stood up for me because they knew it was such a real moment, and it really propelled James Daly onto his next moment because he had this, the warmth of his little girl, because I was playing like a I don't know, 10-year-old, just hugging him. So it was really, so I learned my lesson, but those are the moments that actors dream of, to have a real moment. So, but all the actors, came to my rescue. And the stage manager was really mad at me.
How did James react to you when you did that?
I think he was so shocked and he was moved. So it took him to his next place that he had to go to as in this role. And I think he won a Tony for this. Wow. Either he won one or Christopher Plummer won one. But it was, it was just, and the writer, Archibald MacLeish, he won a Tony. I mean, it was just, well, you can imagine. It was a very, very powerful play between God and the devil.
I talked about several of the shows that you were a part of in our opening introduction, and one of the earliest credited roles was for the Donna Reed show. So at what point did you decide to move from New York, where you're doing some plays and stage work and modeling, to Los Angeles. And I think you were just 19, 20 years old or something for you at that time. How hard was it for you to land that first role on a series back in the 60s?
It was easy breezy. You see, the thing is, first of all, I was a member of Screen Actors Guild, which is always a big plus. The second, SAG-AFTRA. But the other thing was I was 20 and I literally looked 14, 15. So I was able to just, because there's child labor laws. So if you hire somebody who's, in their 20s or late teens to play somebody much younger, you can have them work much longer hours.
Right.
So it was really, and I had a major Broadway credit. So, I mean, that was like, doors just flew open. And the reason we moved, it was my mother who said, you don't have a ring on your finger, you're not going to Hollywood, okay? So, so to borrow Beyonce, it didn't quite sound like that, but yeah. So Peter and I got married in New York and then came out to California.
Okay. All right. And do you remember what it took for you to get your first role? Lots of auditions. You said it easy breezy a couple times. Mm-hmm. It's hard to believe in this day and age for it to be like that. I signed with Peter's agent immediately, and they sent me in for the role of Paul Peterson's girlfriend, and I got the role. I mean, it was like, okay, so next. so it was like that for quite a while, because I had, again, a Broadway credit, and I was Screen Actors Guild, and I looked much younger than what I was. And I was a reliable actress. I could even deliver the lines moderately, at least. So, it was really, there was a whole thing with Paul. I had to hide under his bed for some reason, and I can't remember what the reason was. I think I was hiding from Donna or whoever I was hiding from. Uh-huh. And they dragged me out from underneath the bed, and it was like, I was supposed to look shamed. Not that Paul and I were doing anything in his bedroom, but for some reason I was in his bedroom. So, so that was that. Now, when you are on some of these really awesome and shows that have been on for so long and they have stars, some of the biggest television stars of all time, when you first walk onto that set, and for me, I feel like, when I visit Hollywood or I go watch a show being filmed, being on that sound stage and just being able to experience what you see on television, it's breathtaking. It's just one of those moments where it's kind of like an out-of-body experience. Like, am I really here? Did you have that for any of the shows that you appeared on that you had watched for a long time going, oh my gosh, I am here?
Not really. Not really. I mean, there were a couple of shows that I was honored to be part of. I shouldn't say a couple. There are a lot of shows that I was really honored to be part of. But I think there's a kind of strange disconnect that I have. It's like, it's a job, it's just, well, how did you feel when you did this? And it's a job, so it's not until afterwards that the reality kind of washes over me. So it's, just to be part of something like the Brady Bunch was exciting, to be part of Gunsmoke. And the thing is, I did so many Gunsmokes and so many Bonanzas, that you become like, hey, Brooke, you're back, that kind of thing. Because at that time in Hollywood, you could do multiple episodes of the same show. Yeah. So I don't think you're allowed to do that anymore. But, so it was like, Mannix, all of those, Mod Squad, I did so many Mod Squads. So, it was just nice to be part of it. And sometimes, when you do a pilot and you don't know how it's going to go, and like Mod Squad's a perfect example because I did the pilot, and it becomes this enormous success, you really feel like, wow, I was part of that. I helped create that character, and it blossomed into something else. So, and everyone benefited from it. So, and then you go back like the next year after seeing this, show explode, and you see the difference in the actors, how different they are. It's like, whoa, that's that's interesting. So it's it was a whole kind of evolution.
So you did get that awe moment, but just in a different way, just being a part of that show and seeing it go on and get bigger from there. So it was just a different kind of effusive feeling. But it was great. I have no regrets. You mentioned the Brady Bunch, and last year we had Christopher Knight on the show, and he dished about some of his favorite Brady moments. Some of them he'd rather forget. So I'm just kind of curious from you, what do you remember working on that show? Did you feel like a fish out of water because that cast had to be very tight and, you're an outsider?
No, I didn't. I didn't feel like the cast was particularly tight. But I was beginning to date the director. We went together for years. In fact, we're still friends, Richard Michaels. So, I didn't feel like they were the Brady Bunch. It was like, Davis.
Ann B. Davis.
First name. Yes, I loved her. I fell in love with her. She was real. She was down to earth. She was fun. She was funny. She was a super duper professional. I mean, they were all super professional. It was like really, they took their job very seriously, and they had fun. We did table reads and stuff like that, but it wasn't what you would have thought.
Is there a specific moment that you thought that it was a little odd that they weren't as close as you might have thought that they should be? I mean, was it a specific thing that you witnessed that made you feel like that, or just kind of the overall?
I think it was just overall.
Okay.
I think it was just overall.
Do you have any other experiences working on the show that, you stand out in your mind as being memorable?
Well, I did a show called something about Santa Claus with Fred Astaire.
Wow.
And when I met him, I was like, I literally could not talk. I could not talk. And it took me a while to be able to talk. And I croaked out something like, "You're one of the first people I've ever met that I couldn't talk."
Wow.
I thought that was very funny.
And he was he very honored that you felt that way about him?
He was such a lovely man. He was so humble and just beautiful. Also Jimmy Stewart and Henry Fonda. I mean, it was like, yeah. So, but I just remember Fred Astaire. And then going to see the screening of the movie. It was a movie for television. And my name was there. His name was first, obviously. And then mine was third, I think. But the size of the print of my name was the same size that was of his name.
Wow.
It's like, wow. I mean, that's as a former agent, the size of print does matter.
Yeah.
So I was like, wow. I could barely even watch it because I was so blown away by, the entire event.
What a great time to be working in Hollywood with all those
it was
wonderful people and names.
Wonderful people, but also the competition was different. It wasn't cutthroat. There were about 5 of us who were, the young women who looked much younger than we were. Mm-hmm. And one week, one would get a part on a show. The next week, the other one would get, we just kind of kept switching around. And I'd be up for something and I didn't get it. And I would call up one of the other young women and say, "Hey, listen, there's a role on Medical Center that you're so right for. Please get your agent on it." So, we helped each other. And it was like, and we see each other and I would say, "Wow, I saw you on, whatever, not Wagon Train, Bonanza, and you were fabulous. You were so good." So it was the camaraderie was really beautiful. So that was, it was, but nowadays, I mean, you're dealing with, it's almost global. You're dealing with actresses from South America. It's like, so wait a second, they're, hundreds are up for the same part. So it's very, very different.
Yeah, and a lot of other things go into it. We've heard social media followings can impact a role and things that you just wouldn't even imagine would have come into play. If you're more talented, but they have more fans, they make a decision and it doesn't always go your way.
Yeah, that's right. Which is really, but I mean, I understand the point of it, but it's like at some point you've got to go for the creative element. And who knows where that's going to take you anyway, so maybe somebody else has 50,000 followers and the other person has 5,000. But if you chose that one with the 5,000, she could, and if she's that good, she could absolutely explode and get 100,000 followers.
That's right.
So it's, so you have to look at the, long, big picture of stuff, I think. I don't know, but I'm not in the business anymore.
Yeah. One of the roles that people know you very well for is Elaine Parker in Nightmare on Elm Street 3 and 4. A couple great scenes that you had that are very famous to the franchise. Was this your first film outside of like a TV movie that you were up for?
No, I did a movie called Fire Creek with Jimmy Stewart and Henry Fonda.
Okay.
It was just this incredible Western. And I think Warner's didn't put that much behind it because Camelot was coming out at the same time. So they threw everything behind Camelot. But it's a beautiful Western. And the two icons of the screen were just magnificent and just great to work with.
But you were hesitant to do a horror movie, right?
Yeah.
And why? Just because you weren't into the genre?
I just didn't want anybody, I've said this many times before. It was a time when people were doing some, strange things, like they're not doing strange things now, but things that were like coming out of like a movie. I don't know. There was some chainsaw stuff in Texas, and there were just some like weird, disgusting, dreadful things. And I thought, I don't want to be I don't want that karma in me because I influenced somebody to do something terrible. So I kept turning it down, and my wonderful agent just kept on me. And to this day, I just want to thank her because this is a gift that keeps on giving, as we're on the phone now. So in conventions, and we just did a viewing of Nightmare 4, which is the second time I had seen it. It was really a good movie.
Awesome.
I'm so glad that I did it, both of them. Yeah.
Well, I'm a huge horror fan, it's been a while since I've seen the Nightmare on Elm Street series, but I do know that you got to assist in burning Freddy Krueger alive, which is pretty fun. What don't we know about how that scene was shot, or maybe just some secrets of filming these movies in general?
Well, when I came on in 3, there was reference to it, but I was never part of the burning of Freddy Krueger. Brooke Bundy is the actress.
Mm-hmm.
So I think maybe, I don't know if there was, because I never saw 1 and 2. So I don't know if there was somebody else that played Elaine, and you saw her there at the burning. Like, I guess it would be like the first one. I don't know. Because like I said, I haven't seen 1 or 2.
Robert Englund played Freddy Krueger, and he had already starred in the 2 films before he arrived on set. So you just answered one of the questions I had floating in my mind, that you hadn't seen 1 and 2 when you got on set for number 3.
Right.
Wow. Well, what was Robert like to work with? Did he have an ego with new stars coming on these series, or what was Robert like?
Robert Englund is one of the most generous, kind, professional, charming, funny actors, and well-informed I think he reads like 2 or 3 newspapers a day.
Wow.
And we're talking about serious newspapers. Mm-hmm. He knows everything about everything. So he's just a joy to work with, and very, very, very professional. I'm very klutzy. So we did the scene where he decapitates me. Those were real razors on his fingers, because we were going to do it all in one shot, where he comes in, he decapitates me, he comes into the room, in Kristen's bedroom, and then he slashes at the pillows. I don't know if you remember that scene, and then all these feathers just start floating.
Yeah.
So they had to be real razors. So and he had to swipe at me. So we rehearsed that scene over and over and over and over and over again. And I scored my shoes, which means, put little like marks at the bottom of your shoes so you don't slip.
Yeah.
Because the blades came really close. But we choreographed it over and over and over again. So it just went smoothly. So we could just, decapitate me, grab the other head, hold that, and then go into Kristen's room and slash up pillows and show Kristen my head.
So that was all done in
it was
kind of one take?
One shot.
Oh my gosh. I wouldn't have thought that at all.
Yep. It's like there's no cutting in it. But the interesting, I always tell this story too, because I still don't, and it's been explained to me a million times, but I still don't get it. It's like it just doesn't make sense.
All right.
Because I came on the set on Nightmare 4, and the first day on the set I had a scene with Robert, and I said, okay. Now I don't understand this, because you decapitated me in 3, correct? And he said, yeah. I said, okay, so how come I'm here in 4? And he said, Brooke. And I said, what? He said, shut up. I went, okay.
That's the answer. Okay, it's not that we're not going that deep then.
It's okay. Zip my mouth. So yeah, but he's lovely to work with, and I'm always happy when we see each other at a convention and we laugh about stuff. It's really nice to see him. He's a good guy.
Now you talk about him having real razor blades on his fingers, and so it might answer this question, but is there anything scary about starring in a scary movie? With him lunging at you with razors, yeah, that's pretty scary. But aside from that, is there anything scary about being in a horror film?
No. There was one moment. Actually, it wasn't scary. I think I had a disconnect with how dangerous it actually was. It wasn't until afterwards that it went, oh dear. But the thing is we had gone over. We rehearsed it so many times that there was confidence in him. Total confidence that he is not going to get anywhere near me. It'll look like it, but he's not going to get anywhere near me. And also confidence in our rehearsals, because we did it. I can't tell you how many times.
Sure.
But the other thing, there was it Rodney? No, was it Rodney? Who was it that had his veins taken out of his body and he was like a puppet?
Oh. Was
it Bradley? Bradley?
I'm not
Greg
sure.
Bradley?
I remember that, but I don't know the name of the character.
And I don't mean to diminish an actor's name at all. I get confused with, if you have two first names, I always invert them. But I remember sitting next to him, and all of his veins were out. They had to put out on the floor so they wouldn't get all tangled. And I remember sitting next to him and looking at all of his veins and arteries and everything, and going, "Oh my God, who thinks of this stuff?"
Right.
It was so repulsive. I had to finally move. It was so distracting.
Oh
to
my
me.
gosh.
Yeah, it was really, really ugly, and very disturbing. I think more than anybody. But I wasn't there for Brooke's scene. We were talking about it the other day. That it took almost 2 weeks to turn her into a cockroach. Yeah, I missed that whole part, that whole sequence. But that was evidently the most difficult transformation that they had done, special effects had done.
Wow. We talk about Robert Englund's time in the makeup chair, which I was going to ask you about, because I'm just curious how long it took him to actually fully get into makeup. But I forgot about all these secondary characters that probably sat equally as long or longer to get these things attached to them and get them in their full character.
Yeah. But the thing that I found out, I think it was about 3 hours in makeup for Robert. But the interesting thing, and this is what people don't realize, it's taking the makeup off that can cause all kinds of skin problems, dermatological stuff. So, because you've got to peel that stuff off. So it's like, because I know that was really where the work went into, that, getting rid, because just putting it on is one thing, but which I know is like really time consuming and probably is unpleasant. But it's taking off the latex and everything that probably adheres to your skin to a degree. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think about that part. I just think about how long it takes to have them sit there, but it probably could take equally as long to get it off and to also treat your skin so you don't get any weird rashes and reactions. Yeah.
I mean, you have to go to a dermatologist. You have to get special creams, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And just be careful with any kind of soap and water, because your pores are probably open. I mean, it's a whole process. So I have a feeling that taking it off is more difficult than putting it on.
Well, I am glad to hear that Nightmare on Elm Street is something that, even looking back, like you said, it keeps giving back and blessing you with opportunities. And the fans that are connected to this movie are people that you get to meet at conventions, and you spend a lot of hours doing that. And so on this show, I love to kind of hear about those fan encounters that you might have had. So do you have any weird or fun, maybe even creepy fan encounters that stick with you?
I haven't. And I knew you were going to ask me that question, to sort of prep me on it, to really look back. The fans that I've encountered, I call them friend fans, are just so lovely and so warm and deferential and charming and sweet. And it's so interesting because sometimes you look at the fans and they come to the horror conventions in horror costumes.
Yeah, the cosplay.
And they look pretty scary. And then they open their mouth and they're so sweet and so kind, and kind to each other. So that's, I remember being in Pasadena at the Pasadena Civic, and the line, I got there very early, but the line to get in was twice around the block. It's a huge venue. And then when I got in, when we started, Robert's table is always, there's always a line. Mm-hmm. There were hundreds of people waiting to meet Robert and to get his autograph. And he takes a lot of time with everybody. He asks them questions. He doesn't just sign and say, okay, on to the next. But what I noticed were all these people dressed as ghouls and vampires and punkers and all that kind of stuff. They were so quiet. Someone would step on another person's toe and they go, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Are you okay?" That kind of a thing. It was, and you see this group of like monsters.
Yeah.
It was really, it's just like heartwarming. But I think that like when I was on a soap, I had some weird encounters because you're in somebody's living room every day. Mm-hmm. So I had this one encounter. I was at the grocery store and I was just buying a few things, and there was a line, and there was a woman ahead of me with a shopping cart, and her husband was with her, and she saw me and she did like a double take, and she said, "Honey, go ahead of me. It's okay." And I said, "Are you sure?" And she said, "Yeah." She said, "You just have a few things." And her husband said, "What are you doing? We got to get out of here." And she said, "She keeps me happy in the afternoon."
Oh.
And I went, "Oh God, that's like the wrong thing to say." So I thanked her very much. And then I was with an actress, maybe even at the same market, and she played a bad girl, and she was, always after everybody's husband. She was just like this kind of trampy person.
Yeah.
Anyway, somebody came up behind her with a purse and slapped her across the back of her head and said, "You be."
Wow.
I was like, whoa. And she was like holding her head going, "Ow, ow, ow." I've never seen anything like that. So it was really, then another time I was in Ohio, and I was at a McDonald's, and a fan had asked me to come to their daughter's birthday party. So I went to the birthday party.
You did?
And,
really?
Yeah. So, and I was, I don't know, doing something at McDonald's, maybe going to the ladies' room or something like that. And a woman came over to me and she said, she says, "Is it PJ's birthday?" PJ was my kid on the show. And
okay.
I went, that's pretend. She said, "What?" I said, "Oh, it's okay. But no, it's not PJ's birthday." And I just walked away going, "What was that about?"
What about that? That is some disconnect when people think that the TV show is your real life. Whoa.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's but we used to get letters about I got one letter about somebody that was going to murder somebody else, and I had to really let them know that they're being plotted against. I was like,
They used you
okay.
for that?
Yeah, somebody sent me a letter and said, I can't remember who it was, but someone was going to get killed off. And in the letter it said, because they trusted me, that I had to warn this person to not be around this other person. I can't remember the whole storyline, but it was, there's a real, now I don't know if that still goes on with soaps, but there is a faction of people that believe that it's true.
Wow. Okay,
which
then.
Is a tribute to the actors,
Yeah. That's just really funny that they write you a letter to warn you as your character to watch out for somebody. Mm-hmm. You're like, no, that's not the script next week.
Right. So also, I replaced somebody on General Hospital, and I was told when I did the replacement is if I get any threatening letters to take, they will have to take it to the FBI. And I went, okay, I signed on here to be an actress, not to go in the witness protection program.
Right. Yeah.
So it was so weird. It's a whole different world, and it's made up of actors who are really good. We used to pull out 49 pages a day per character, and to do that on and on consistently, and to know your lines, and to rehearse and take time very seriously when you're there to take every moment to rehearse, to go over lines, to do this, to do that. And then you have to go to make up hair, and it's all kinds of stuff. But because you're turning out a show every day for 1 hour, it's an hour show. Usually on television, it's between a week to 10 days to turn out an hour show,
right?
And you're doing it every day. So it's a whole. I don't think that soap actors get the respect that they really deserve.
I completely agree. I can't even imagine the fast turnaround time, knowing those lines as well as everybody does for all those episodes boggles my mind.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to know, Brooke, is we talked about that you do go to conventions and that kind of thing. And obviously we talked a couple weeks ago with some Comic-Con experts, and we talked about how the conventions changed for this year and how we hope that they don't change for next year. So we talked about it as kind of like how conventions will change, but what about celebrities who attend these events, such as you? How will the coronavirus, and even after things maybe go back to pre-virus times, as far as us not worrying about catching a virus from everybody, how will it affect you going back to these conventions? Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I have. I've thought about it a lot. I think it'll be a while before I can do that. And I need to just make sure that there is adequate protection. In other words, the pens that we use different pens, so they're just disposables, that we have some sort of protection between us and the fans. And the fans are protected too. It's not just for us. But the thing is, it's because we hug the fans, they want their picture taken. So we're arm in arm, kind of thing. So there's a lot of touching, a lot of closeness that occurs. So I guess that has to be really looked at because it's just such a shame because it's such a wonderful environment. Yeah. And then we all get together too, which I love. So it's I don't know. I think it's got to be case by case.
Right.
And people have to be tested before they come in, and then of course the ventilation system, because they're inside of these huge venues. So I don't know. I don't know if I want to risk my life. But what we're doing is we're doing kind of viral signings now, which is really interesting. So I'm with horror. So what is it called? Horror signs. Anyway, it's up on my website and my Instagram account, and you can send picture. You can send if you have a picture or if you have memorabilia. So you can send it in. It gets sent to me. I sign, and then I do a little video of me signing, so it's a verified signature. And then we send it back, and then you send in money.
Huh?
There's something
awesome.
like that.
Okay, no, that's
so
great.
It's just necessity is the mother of invention. So people have come up with this, and it's still separate, but we're living in a separate society anyway.
Yeah. Are you currently booked for any shows coming up, or even next year that you're already having to think about, or is your schedule clear with that kind of stuff right now?
Yeah, it's totally clear. So I think everybody's just sort of like waiting. Where is this going to take us? And I fear that we are going to get a second wave that's going to be far worse than the first. And I get it. I was thinking about this the other day, and I think that, people still smoke, even though they saw that horrible commercial about the woman that had to breathe through the hole in her throat.
Right.
And, all of these. And we've all known people that have died of cancer. But people still smoke. So, again, going back to the concept of disconnect, there is a definite disconnect between, puff, puff and choke, choke.
Right.
So, and I think it's the same way with masks. It's like, it's not going to happen to me, blah, 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 blah. But, let's all be really guarded and careful for each other. And if we have family, think of our families. What would happen if we, departed this world because we didn't wear a mask? So let's all just, get it together, wear a mask, and put up with this mess, this horror. This is a true horror show.
It is, yeah.
Put up with it, and we can move through it.
Yep, great words. I completely agree. Hopefully, though, we can return to some sort of normal where we can attend events again.
Yeah.
That's really what I
hope.
Yeah,
absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we're social animals. We all want to go to the movies.
Yeah.
We go to inside restaurants. We want to go shopping, so we want to hang out together.
Yeah.
So my friends are doing, what do they call that? Zoom cocktail parties.
Well, it's one way to
Zoom
stay in
dinner
touch
parties.
safely. Yeah.
Yeah.
We did a lot of those
Yeah.
meetings when this shutdown first happened in March and April with family, just so we could all stay connected. It's important.
Yeah, it is. It's very, very important. Yeah, my daughter calls me all the time. Mom, you okay? Haven't heard from you, Mom.
Aw.
I'm here. So yeah, so it's really. But what I'm finding too is that people are really communicating. When you do a Zoom, because I think people are like, they're hanging out in their living room or whatever. They've got their cat on their lap, they're having a cup of coffee, but they're more casual. They're more open than sitting at a dining table talking to across the room. It's when you're there. So when you're not there, they're just kind of like, I don't know, just talking about their life. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about your daughter just a little bit. Tiffany Helm is known for a celebrated horror series, just like you are, but this one is Friday the 13th. She played the role of Violet.
Right.
Did
Right.
she naturally gravitate towards acting herself, or was that something you guys kind of pushed her to because you were in the business? How did that work with her?
Well, I think her aunt is Anne Helm, her father is Peter Helm, and me. So between the three of us, I think there's a genetic pooling of capability, that's just kind of natural. And she went into it naturally. My then manager, Michael Mann, asked me about SBV, which is an agency, who is the best actress in the kids department at SBV. And I said, Tiffany Helm. And he said, that name is so familiar. And I said, yeah. So because he had known her for a while, and then he met her and fell in love with her, and she just went, she just skyrocketed. She just worked. So, so it was like, and she's such an incredible actress, far better than I ever was. She's just, she really delves deep into the character and comes up with so many interesting ideas. And so she's doing movies in Canada. So that's that. But it was not through any, efforts on my part, except to say that she was the best at this particular agency.
Wow. Well, in the late 80s, Tiffany got to work with Robert Englund as well in Freddy's Nightmares, which was a television series. Did she get that on her own? Was there some sort of connection because you were in those movies that she got to try out for it? Or how did that work with her getting to work with Robert as well?
No, I think she got the part just totally on her own. I had no influence whatsoever.
Except probably telling her that Robert was a great guy to work with and she should go out for the part.
And have fun and stuff. So, so it was, she got it totally on her own.
Well, Brooke, when you look back at your career, it does seem like you've done it all. You've had parts in westerns, soaps, films, horror movies. Do you have any regrets? Do you ever think, if I could go back and change something, this would be the moment? Do you have any moments like that?
I think, that's such a great question. And I've thought about this. And I think about it when I watch the Tonys. And I think that if I stayed in New York, I would have been able to have a very different career on stage, because I really enjoyed being on stage. And I've done plays out here, and I've really enjoyed it. There's a connection that happens between the actors and the audience that is just magical. So that might be my own, and it's not really a regret. It's just, I kind of wonder.
And my favorite question to ask, it's kind of my new favorite, because it's very open-ended and it could go any direction. So I'm just going to ask you one simple question. What do you know that we don't?
Nothing. I'm an open book. No, I was an agent. And again, my friend Michael Mann, who is my manager, talked to me about changing careers. And I was devastated at first because it was saying you're washed up, I thought. But he wasn't. He was looking out for me. Anyway, so finally I went to him and I said, okay, I think I want to be an agent. I want to be a kid's agent. And he said, okay. So he set up a meeting at an agency named Epstein Wyckoff, and I went in and they hired me. I knew Jack. I knew nothing, but it's something I wanted to do. And I'm good at spotting talent. and I knew every casting director in town. Obviously, I had worked for them,
right?
Or they hired me. So between that, and I had been in some involvement with contracts for myself, so they hired me, and it took off like lightning. I mean, it was just the best. And I think of all the jobs I've ever had in my life, being an agent was my favorite. I just loved it. I loved discovering talent. I loved booking talent. I loved meeting kids. It was the best.
What are some names of talent that you either, like, would we know anybody that you discovered, or that you really were famous for managing and finding?
Well, I wrote a little list. So Eric Martzoff, I discovered him. Jonathan Lipnicki was what Jonathan came into my office, and he had those little glasses. And I said, "Tell me a little bit about yourself." He said, "My father's a pirate and he drinks whiskey." And I thought, "Oh my God, I love this child." So his mother's sitting behind him going, no, he's not like that. So, and I got him an audition for Jerry Maguire.
Yeah.
And I said, when you see this child, I think it was Francine Mazler, I think she was the casting director. I said, when you see this child, you're going to faint, because this child is beyond precious. So I sent him in, and I didn't get a phone call from her, because I thought I was going to get an automatic booking. And she didn't call. So I called her. And I said, "Hey, so what's going on?" And she said, "That child that you sent me was terrible. He was awful." And I went, "What?" She said,
"Did you see the right
my
boy?"
God, Brooke. She said, "He was just terrible." I said, "Oh, you know what? He had car sickness. And I think he threw up. I'm surprised you couldn't smell it on him. So can I just get him back in the room?" She said, No. So, and of course, that was a total lie. He didn't have car sickness. I just had to think of something really fast.
Yeah.
So they booked another child, and the other child, for some reason, didn't work out. So, and I found out about it. So I called her back, and I said, "Please just see Jonathan again. Please, please, please." She said, "Oh, God, all right. I'll do you a favor." So we sent Jonathan in, and he met with Tom Cruise, and Tom Cruise just fell in love with him. And I guess Renee Zellweger did too, and the rest is history. So that was my little Jonathan Lipnicki story.
Oh, see, I'm glad I asked that came out. Because of Jonathan, we all know the human head weighs 8 pounds. So, I mean, I have him to thank for that.
Too cute. But I've got some other ones that I found. Haley Joel Osment. He was another one. Monique Coleman, Amber Benson, Jamie Presley, Tara Reid, and Steve Burton, just to name a few.
Wow. Those are huge names.
Really, yeah. It was like Jamie Presley lived in Orange County, and she would get coached before every audition. She would drive all the way in, get coached, and then maybe have to go back home. I don't know, whatever it was. But she did an enormous amount of driving, and a lot of money went out to coaches. I mean, she was that serious about her career. And now you can't touch her. I mean, she's just brilliant. And just so pretty. Oh, my goodness, that girl still is just, like, gorgeous. So the same with Tara Reid. She just, like, really dedicated and coached and everything. And I'd send her picture out, and people would say, "Bring that girl in here right now." I mean, just gorgeous. So, and Amber Benson was just wonderful, wonderful, powerful actress. I used to say to casting directors, "Okay, if you see Amber for this part, and you don't think she's right, you don't have to see any of my clients ever again."
Wow.
I mean, that's the kind of confidence I had in her. So, and then also, let me just go back to the cast of Nightmare. We're all so interconnected, through religion, through Toy's mom was my best friend. I was Brooke Cease's teacher, acting teacher when she was a little kid. So it's very interesting. We have a very deep connection.
See, those are things we don't necessarily know without hearing them from you. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Are you completely out of the business now as far as managing talent and looking, like, what are you doing these days?
Yeah, I'm out of the business. I was doing some reception work at an organization called the SGI USA, which is at the national headquarters. It's a Buddhist organization. So, and that was like another wonderful, wonderful, amazing job. I just loved showing up, but it's, they're not doing tours anymore. They don't have the bookstore open. There's no visitor center, so I'm not working there anymore. But I'll probably be doing volunteer work there at the beginning of next year.
Excellent. Well, where can we find you on social media? How do fans keep up with you?
Okay, so it's www.brookebundy.com.
Somebody stole Brooke
Instagram,
Bundy on you, didn't they?
Because there's another Brooke Bundy in the business.
That's what I mean. They stole that website from you before you could get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So, but we're trying to fix that. So when you just put in my name, it'll go to Brooke. So if you just put in Brooke Bundy, I think it'll just travel over.
Excellent.
So we're trying to fix it.
Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really do appreciate you being here. I'm gonna find the link to Horror Signs, and I'm gonna put that up on the link on this the show, and that way, if fans want to get merchandise or some autographs from you, they'll be able to do that.
Okay. The actual name of it, I'm sorry, I just for some reason I can't remember. It's Jean's company. But if you go into my Instagram account, you can see the exact name, and you can see all the pictures that are there for sale. Thank you so much.
Brooke, this is awesome.
And thank you for all your great questions.
My thanks to Brooke Bundy for joining us on the Fancounters Celebrity Podcast, carving out a lot of time out of her day just to give you some great stories. And I really enjoyed our time together, Brooke. Thanks for being on the show. You can follow us on social media. We are on Facebook. Just search Fancounters. We have a private group called Sharpie Nation. We're also on YouTube. All of our shows are on YouTube. Look for Fancounters Podcast on YouTube and subscribe to our channel there. We invested, my wife and I, into our business. We have a video business, and we bought a bunch of live streaming equipment to help out local theaters and schools and auctions and all this stuff. Bring their content. I keep saying content, but that's really what it is, for the internet and for live streaming. And we might use some of that coming up on the podcast so you can see it being made and actually watch live as we record, which will be a lot of fun. So that's something I've got in my head that I might start doing. Lots of other ideas coming up. So if I don't get a show out in the next week or two, it's only because we're revamping things. We're recording some new openers and doing some exploring as to how to make the podcast better. If you have an idea what you want to hear on the show, just send me an email to hello@fancounters.com, and your suggestions about how you want to see the podcast evolve would be greatly appreciated. But until next week or next time, thanks so much for being here on the Fancounters Celebrity Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye.